Okay, just a quick one here. I want to talk about some unusual editions that I've seen recently or just have around. I want to do a video about this for a little bit. This is some of the books that I've obtained in recent months here. So I got these from my friend Charlie recently. He actually was like cleaning out his excess, and so these are photo novels. I don't know if they're all Columbia Pictures, but these are actually like these are like mass market paperback size, and it is the whole movie basically in stills with talk bubbles, like special effects and all. So this is the Buck Rogers, the 1978 Buck Rogers, by the same guy who created Glenn A. Larson, who created the Battlestar Galactica, which I thought was especially cool. You know, you get those 70s sci-fi models, all Star Warsy and stuff. And the other one's Nightwing, which is an objectively terrible movie from around actually the same period. And this is like a horror thing involving like Native American lore and bats and David Warner. And really stupid climax. There's some scenes from it there. I hope I'm not spoiling anything. But I've seen like books like this from before, from like the 70s and the 80s, where it breaks the film down into film stills. I actually have one of the earliest ones. It's of A Clockwork Orange, all in black and white ones, and I have one of Alien, which is gorgeous. It's actually much larger. It's presented like an art book, so you get that. This is another thing I got from my friend Charlie. These Dell Books, who I've never thought much of. I think it was back in the 50s. They had map back books. So what it is like it's a mystery or an adventure or something on the back. That's Lawrence Treat's Cue in Quicksand. And in the back there's a map of the area that the mystery concerns. In this case it's a town, and some of them it's a building, like the various rooms, stuff like that. You see they got the Dell logo in the middle. It seems like they had something really on the ball back then, but it didn't continue. Like it's a limited series, but that's why Charlie was into it. He loves limited and numbered series. I just like cool things. Okay. This is Manor Books, The Living Stone, by Howden Roland. Kind of a looks like a Conan-y type sword and sorcery thing. The reason this book is included here is because this is an example of Manor Books completely recycling a previous cover illustration. You see this here with the skull guy and the Conan dude and the shield, right? You see it here again. This is actually objectively later. This is early 80s. This is 1977, Feast of Fear by Vic, I'm not going to try to say his last name, Gedalia. This is a horror anthology, which happens to have some Robert E. Howard in it, which is not sword and sorcery. There's actually no sword and sorcery in it, so the illustration is probably more appropriate to this one than this. I really like the font on the side there. This was a very disappointing collection. There's mistakes in it. The last story is by somebody whose also last name is Gedalia. I'm going to assume it's Vic's wife or sister or something. I think that's the only reason she'd get a story in something, because it was terrible. It was god-awful. So anyway, that was cool, and I decided to bring up another example of the same thing. Burroughs' Pirates of Venus. This is an Ace edition here. This again, is Ace recycling a previous cover, in this case, A Fighting Man of Mars. Now this cover is appropriate to Burroughs' Mars series, because in that one it's set on Mars, 2 moons, right? You know, like in generally clear atmosphere. Venus, however, historically, especially in fantasy and fiction, is always clouded over, so they can't see the moons. In fact, the populace of Venus is ignorant of the existence of the heavens. They think they live on a flat disk, basically, and not a sphere. So, but that's actually, I've been looking for this book for a long time, and I pulled the trigger on this one just because I was really amused by the recycled cover. Good book, though, actually, from Burroughs. This is another map back. This is Mary Roberts Reinert's The Great Mistake. You see in this one, it's mostly just a house, and I guess there's an outbuilding or something. And lastly, but not leastly, these Inflation Fighter editions from Leisure Books. One of which is a Lynn Carter, the other which is Steve Vance. I don't know a thing about Steve Vance. Lynn Carter, I've ranted a lot about how I don't think he's that awesome, but mostly like these are hilarious. Like this is I think this is early '80s, I believe, late '70s. Like Carter administration type stuff. No, that's '78. Okay, so yeah, definitely Carter administration. Inflation was like the buzzword at that time. 78 and '79 here. So the idea is that by not getting cover art, it was somehow a savings. That's $1.50 right there in 1978 and '79. I guess it's cheaper, but it still doesn't sound that cheap for the time. I don't know, but it's really cute that they had this gimmick. I don't know if any of you were around back then, but I remember in the late '80s, a lot of the stores, generic brands, there would be nothing on. There would be no illustration on the label, no photo of the food or anything like that. It would just say something like like crackers, cat food, and stuff like that. This is what that reminds me of. Anyway, I will read those at some point and find out what's in them, but at this point it's just, about amusing covers, so thanks for dropping in.